start by peeling your carrots. I like to use potato peeler for my carrots simply because it only takes the skin off and you don't lose too much of the carrot. I know it might sound a bit silly, but I think it means it's a little bit more economical. Once you've got your carrot, make sure that you trim off the top, not too much, trim off the top and the bottom, and then give it another little wash so it's nice and clean. Now with the potato, again, most people like to use potato peeler on the potato. I don't mind it. I find it's a bit hard, and to be honest, most of the time I would use a knife, but give your potatoes a good, take as little of the skin off as you possibly can. Again, once you've finished peeling the potato, make sure that you give it a wash. If you've got any bits like that in the potato, just take them out like that with your knife. You see that one's a little bit hard, but oh my goodness, then get that one okay. Now for the onion, I've already had a practice at this video, so I'm left with a half peeled onion. So with your onion, cut off the top and the bottom, and then take off as little of the skin around the onion as possible. Obviously you haven't washed the onion before you start, so it's very important to make sure that once you have peeled your onion that you wash it again. So that's the vegetables prepared and ready for the chopping. Right, when I actually weighed the 5 carrots that I had, I discovered they were actually slightly over. You need 400 grams of carrots altogether. So those of you who haven't got scales, I'll show you after a sneaky way of measuring the right amount of carrot. So just cut your carrots very, very finely, because the finer you cut them, the quicker they will cook. And we all know that waiting for carrots to cook often spoils a Sunday lunch. So cut your carrots finely. Potatoes, likewise, cut them into pieces, very thin pieces. Then, as if you were making chips, not that people make chips very much these days, cut them into little cubes. You're going to whiz all this together to make a smooth soup, so it's important that you cut everything finely so that the machine works well. Then same again with the onion. I hate cutting onions, but cut your onion very, very finely. I'm going to turn this one around so you can see. So you've got very, very fine pieces of onion. Okay, so unlike Mary Berry, I didn't have anybody to chop the carrots and the veggies for me. So now I'm just going to show you a cheat way of measuring your vegetables if you don't have a scales. So I've just taken an ordinary mug, CC Crafts mug, and it's just your average square mug. And what you do is you put your carrots into your mug, and there's one complete mug of carrots. Now I worked out that this recipe takes 2 mugs and a little bit of carrot. If you get 2 mugs, that's fine. Right, while we took a pause there, I boiled the kettle. We need 1 litre of fluid for this soup. So I'm going to use 2 vegetable stock cubes. And I'm just going to peel them. Ha ha, she says, just like that. Try not to leave any tinfoil in, like I sometimes do. And we're going to measure out 1 litre, if I can see. There we go. 1 litre of stock. Just make sure that your stock cubes are nicely dissolved, and it doesn't matter if there's a few bits and pieces because they will actually dissolve when we start boiling the liquid anyway. So there you've got, I'm going to pass this over to Carl and he's going to do a bit of stirring here. And we're going to move on to the next bit, which is the actual soup itself. Now, normally I wouldn't bother putting everything in little dishes and things, but I have done just to make things simpler for this. So I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons Now, for those of you who don't know what a tablespoon is one of the big ones. And if you haven't got one of those, then 2 pudding spoons that you normally eat your pudding with equals 1 tablespoon. So if you haven't got a tablespoon, use 4 pudding spoons worth of vegetable oil. Then to that, we're going to add 2 level teaspoonfuls of curry powder. Now, if you like your curry strong, curry taste, you can add a bit more, but to be honest, we find that 2 level teaspoonsful of curry powder is fine. We're going to put that in the soup there, and we're going to add our onions. Now, because I was working on the top, my cooker hasn't heated up very well yet, but we're going to just fry off these onions a little bit in the curry. So you should be getting a lovely smell now of curry and onions. Yeah, nice. So just mix those around a little bit, and then we're going to add our potatoes. You can hear it sizzling now. Our potatoes and our carrots. We're just going to get this in this pan, but I just wanted to use a normal size pan, and just mix those around a little bit so you have everything mixed and you've got the curry mixed through. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to add the vegetable stock, and we're going to leave that to cook. So you've got a lovely bowl there. There's a little bit left in the bottom, so I'll just stir that in there. So you've got a lovely smell now of curry and onions. Obviously you can't smell the carrots, so you have to take those ages to cook. So we're going to bring those to the boil. Go on, cook up, do your stuff. Bring those to the boil, and then we're going to turn it down just a little bit to simmer. Now you can put a lid on it if you want. I'm a bit lazy and I never bother with lids these days. Most chefs would say that they don't bother with lids. So I'm going to let it boil. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. There we go. It's starting to boil now. This is where you can start humming to yourselves while we wait for it to boil. Right, what a boring 5 minutes that would have been if I'd have been videoing myself standing here watching that coming to the boil. Right, that's your soup coming to the boil now, so we're just going to turn it down. I usually turn it down to about 5 on my cooker. So it's just boiling nicely there. It's not going too crazy. If you do it too crazy, it'll boil all over the top and all over your cooker. So we're just going to leave it there now to cook. We'll get back to you with exactly how long it took that to cook. It all really depends on the carrot spot. See you in about, 15-20 minutes. So while we're waiting for the soup to cook, this is a little tip that I use. I'm just going to take 2 heels of the bread, or crusts as you would say in England, of the bread, and we're going to make some croutons. Now, I always think a few croutons in the soup makes a difference, and because it's not really going to cost you anything, because most people throw out the heels of their bread anyway. So we're just going to take your thing and we're going to cut it into little squares. Now, also, while I've been fiddling around, I've also put 2 tablespoons full of vegetable oil into a frying pan next to me here, which we're going to move over to in a minute. And we're just going to gently fry these croutons. See the nice little squares there? And we're going to pause for a minute while I do the rest of them. And then I'll show you how to make some nice crusty croutons. So we have some nice 2 tablespoonfuls or 4 dessert spoonfuls of oil in the pan, and it's just heating up nicely. So I'm just going to add the croutons. Remember, they're just 2. I used some gluten-free bread because I'm a celiac, but you can just use any bread that you have left over, even bits of French bread will do. So, whatever's handy in the kitchen. And we're just going to let those fry nicely in the pan until they're golden brown. If you want to be really exotic and you're making a different sort of soup, you can always add a little bit of garlic or some herbs into the croutons. Try not to work them too much, otherwise they will actually fall to pieces on you. So we're just going to leave those there now. Just jiggle them about a bit and have a bit of fun frying them until they're brown on both sides. So that's 15 minutes later, and if you can tell that the potato's falling nicely. It's nice and soft, and also the carrot is lovely and squishy and soft as well. Now here, next step is that we're going to grind this down to make it into what it would call a smooth soup. Now you have a choice here. If you haven't got one of these devices, which is a lovely food mixer, then you can use a masher if you want. I did a little bit of a survey and I discovered that you can actually buy one of these little gadgets from Asda for £5, so they're not too expensive to buy. This is a Bosch, but that's because I use it an awful lot. So what we're going to do is we're just going to whisk the soup down. You'll notice it's getting thicker. It's quite handy to hold on to the pan while you're doing this. There we go. Now, it's important, make sure that it's fully whisked or processed or whatever you like to call it. In this house it's inclined to be called whisked. Until you can see now your soup is getting very, very thick. If you want a thinner soup, then you just cut down on the amount of potato you use. But, you know, a good hearty soup this time of year does you the world of good. We're nearly there, so I'm just going to stop the camera until I finish this off. So do it until it's nice and thick and there's not a lump in sight. Okay, so there we have it. That's some nice curry carrot soup, and I have tasted it, and yes, it does taste very nice. As you can see, it is quite a thick soup, but that's okay. You know, as I said before, it's nice to have a thick soup this time of year. So good bowl full. There's about 6 bowls full in that. Now, some people like this with a little bit of cold milk on. In this house, we like it with a nice dollop of Greek yogurt, and what you can do is you can swirl it about and it tastes rather nice. So then put some Greek yogurt in, put your croutons in. I've been a bit measly here with this portion, but pop your croutons in, and because, you know, Mary Berry I am, I'm just going to add a little bit of grated carrot on the top. And the reason I'm adding the grated carrot is because earlier on I told you I had used too many carrots, so I'm using up the carrot that I didn't need for the soup. And there we have it, curried carrot soup with croutons. Thanks for watching. I'll be back again. Bye.